RotoGrinders Today. I'm Jordan Cooper, a.k.a. BlenderHD, BlenderHD. You know, follow me on Twitter. It's Friday, September 6th, and because we've got NFL Week 1 just around the corner, we already started yesterday, right, on Thursday. We got a game tonight, but we got 12 games on the DraftKings slate on Sunday, and we'll be talking about GPP strategy. That means team stacks. That means game stacks. That means finding leverage so you could win the $5 milli. If you want to put in a whole bunch of entries, I think I'm going to be playing 20 or 30 entries into that on Sunday. So keep on tuning into the show. Hit that thumbs up button on your way in the door. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live. Join with me for another season. Typically here on Fridays talking about MMA, but today we're going to be trying to hit the nuts or the proverbial nuts when we're trying to beat out 950,000 other entries on DraftKings on Sunday. It's John Breslin, a.k.a. Squirrel Patrol. And we're going to be doing this basically for the next 18 weeks on Friday. I think we both have very similar mindsets. We're not going to be talking about the picks, the plays, everything like that. It's more about lineup construction, what stacks you're building, what game stacks you're building, what you're running it back with. Are you running it back? Are you fading this chalk? Are you stacking for, correlation purposes? With the $5 milli, I'm a little bit more excited because typically I don't play the milli, but I'm giving it a shot for week 1.
Good. Yeah. We'll start talking about UFC again in January. We got 18 weeks of regular season NFL action followed by the playoffs. Started last night. Got one more game tonight. No game Saturday. I'm glad they're not doing it just one game every day. So we'll have a bunch of games on Sunday, and that's what I think we're here to talk about. So it's a good slate. Week 1's always, the week 1 wrinkle is always they come out with pricing a little bit early. And so you don't have like a lot of preseason stuff factored in, although I don't think there's really been any major injuries that's causing like a free square type of play for week 1. 12 games on DraftKings. Don't forget 13 games and now the yardage bonuses on FanDuel as well. So keep that in mind because that late game for Sunday night is got a pretty big total there. Excited to talk about some NFL main slate.
Right, and we got all the tools for you if you want to take down those GPPs for RotoGrinders Premium. We got an NFL package. We also got Combo Premium where you get everything, okay? I mean, right now, Freebie Friday is college football expert survey. So if you want to play the college football slate tomorrow, definitely check out the expert survey. We got college football projections also. I use them for props. I don't know anything about college football. I just basically look at our projections. I bang out a whole bunch of stuff on all the sports books, and money comes out the other side. So that's what happened last season. So I'm on board for this season as well. But we got all our premium NFL content. Tons of stuff coming out today. Tons of stuff coming out tomorrow. We got Lineup HQ. We got Sim Labs for NFL. If you're not familiar with Sim Labs, that's our sim product. You got, you can put in some of your inputs and it'll just run, 100,000 simulations of the contests and the size that you're playing and spit out lineups with different scores, different, variances, everything like that. I use that to like kind of double check the lineups or do some research on, do I need a run back? Is a triple stack viable for this team? And, if I see them coming up a lot in sims and I go, okay, this may be more viable. If I don't, maybe I don't play those types of lineups. So another thing we're bringing back, since not bringing back, but we do it for MLB, is that for this show, we're going to be talking about every single game on the slate, every single team. We got 24 teams, and we're going to put them in tiers, right? A, B, C, D, and F, okay? And this is for DraftKings only. I mean, FanDuel's pricing is a little bit different. And also the way that you play on FanDuel may be a little bit different. And this is going to be ownership adjusted, meaning that the higher the stack is owned, the higher the team is owned, maybe they get bumped down a little. The lower the team is owned, maybe they get moved up a little. And just like it is in baseball, just because the team's in like the F tier doesn't mean you can't play like one player, right? They may not be a good stack, but a good one-off. You could play some, $5,200 receiver and they get 8 catches for 100 yards. You can still do that type of stuff for the F tier teams, but maybe not in a stack. So, John, let's start. Even though I'm going to go down by implied team total, but not the number one team. I'm just going to go back to a lot of our conversations last year on Fridays involve this team. They have the second highest team total. That's the Miami Dolphins facing the Jacksonville Jaguars. It seemed like just you put it on repeat last year. Oh yeah, Miami has a high total, so just and they're expensive, but it's Miami. It's pretty condensed offense. A lot of times, I think last year, if you just every week stacked Tua and Tyreek, you probably did pretty well. So Miami and Jacksonville is the first game up on the slate. Miami with the 26.25 implied team total. Jacksonville 22.75. So this is not like a Miami, favored by more than a touchdown or anything. This may actually be a more competitive game. Let's talk about this game and where we're going to put Miami and Jacksonville on the tiers.
Sure. So I think Miami's an interesting case because they have some players that are obviously like really going to draw our attention. Tyreek Hill probably is the first one, and Devin Achane is probably the second. And then a lot of the other pieces are not going to see very high ownership at all. I'm still like very bullish on the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins are trying to do a thing like the Golden State Warriors did to basketball, maybe like 10 years ago, where every team was used to having like a big center and like a small point guard that just dribbles the ball, and then a couple of guys can hit a 3-pointer. And then the Warriors were like, we want everybody to be able to hit 3-pointers because you can't defend that. And we're just going to pass the ball instead of dribbling. The Dolphins are just like, we're going to get we're used to teams having like a tight end and a running back and, a big, tall wide receiver that's a goal line threat, then a speedy wide receiver, and then a shifty guy. So it's like, Dolphins are like, no, we're going to have the fastest guy in every offensive position because you can't defend that. Like, you might have one cornerback that can cover a speedy wide receiver. You don't have an entire 11-man defense that can cover like the fastest tight end in the league, the fastest running back in the league, the fastest wide receiver in the league. And they're trying to like build off of that. Anyway, yeah, big fan of the Dolphins offense. It's interesting that guys like Tua, guys like Raheem Mostert and Jalen Waddle probably going to completely fall by the wayside. Among the more expensive guys, I'm probably really more bullish on Tyreek Hill, less bullish on Achane. And it's interesting. Like, I actually don't know how much Tua I'm going to play because he's more expensive than a lot of the running quarterbacks. I'd almost rather take like one of the running quarterbacks and pair him with Tyreek Hill. So yeah, I don't know. I've got to assign him a letter grade here and put him in a tier.
Yep.
It's going to be either A or B. I'll put them in as B because I'm probably not as interested in like a full Tua stack as much as I am, just playing Tyreek Hill or Achane as one-offs. But I'll be playing some. Like, I'll probably be over the field because I don't think Tua is going to see a bunch of ownership, and I may end up over the field on like Tua stacks. And don't mind getting to like some Jonnu Smith either, just because I think he fits the mold of what they're trying to do with the rest of the team at tight end, whereas other people are seeing maybe just kind of like the Dolphins never use the tight end kind of situation.
I'm going to bump them down to C tier just simply due to price and ownership. I mean, Tyreek Hill is, I'm going to assume, going to be the highest owned wide receiver on the slate at 8,700. And I don't necessarily think that on a 12-game slate, I want to pay up at quarterback as much. Stacking with Tua, Tyreek, Waddle is just too expensive for the implied team total, even though it's in 26 and change. I don't think you're getting any leverage with the Dolphins unless you're like playing like Waddle by himself. But typically, if Tua is going to do well, I mean, Waddle's probably doing well also because he's a little bit more of the possession receiver. The tight ends are like a wasteland. That's like you're punting and hoping you're getting anything there, which there may not be that many great tight ends on the slate to begin with. The one I'll put above the Dolphins, I'm going to put, and I use all the logos, so I can't make it out. I put the Jacksonville Jaguars above them. I would much prefer if I'm playing a Tyreek Hill lineup, right? That's going to be high owned, especially if I'm playing like chalkier running backs, to play Tyreek Hill with as the run back with a Trevor Lawrence stack. Because I think the Jacksonville Jaguars are priced pretty well. And the byproduct of the way that Miami plays, fast, big plays, is that there's going to be a lot more plays in the game and possibly a lot more back and forth. So I like Trevor Lawrence with the thing is that like they got Christian Kirk, they got Gabe Davis now. They also have Brian Thomas, who is we're an unknown, but he's not like 3K or anything like that. And then Evan Ingram I think he's the highest projected tight end. I think I could play a lineup. I may not want to play Kirk and Ingram together because I think they kind of run the same type of routes. That I would almost want to play like Lawrence, Thomas, or Davis plus Ingram, or Lawrence Kirk with Tyreek. I think that's a better way to get involved with that game. And if we look at our RotoGrinders DraftKings optimal stack percentages, which we have a tool for that, I'm not going to show on the screen because I don't want to give it away because our premium members pay for it. But we have in our Sims, we have Jacksonville stacks, 8% chance of being optimal. Miami, 3.39%. And that's not saying that the Dolphins don't put up a lot more points. It's just from a price consideration and an ownership consideration. Jacksonville is actually number 4 on the list currently in our stack tool. So, I mean, I could possibly even consider them an A-tier team, but I'm willing to concede B tier. Are you on board my thoughts with Jacksonville? Would you play a Jacksonville stack and use like Waddle as the run back or have like no run, just Jacksonville only? Because to me, it seems very clear that like if you're gonna play a Jacksonville stack, play Tyreek Hill in that one.
Yeah. So just a word on Tyreek Hill. It's weird because I think he's going to be the highest owned wide receiver, but I think he should be the highest owned wide receiver. So I'm going to say I'm bullish on him, and I think he'll probably be my highest owned wide receiver in my 150 sets in my single entry. It's possible he gets like steamed ownership, and I end up under the field despite him being my highest owned wide receiver. But I think he should be the highest owned. Like I think he's too cheap. Speaking of too cheap, I agree. I think Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram are too cheap. And I don't know. I think you can play them in the same lineup. Like I see what you're saying about them like running the same route, and that's not my area of expertise. But I'll say the fact that they're different positions means like they don't necessarily need absolute and if they're underpriced, they don't necessarily need like absolute ceiling games where like we're worried about them eating into each other's usage. Like it's possible that Ingram has a good game, but he's underpriced, and all the other tight ends just flop. Or you get one-off touchdowns from these guys, and some of the $2,500 guys are going to get touchdowns. But like that Ingram can still land on the winning lineup at tight end. I'm bullish on Jacksonville. Bullish on this game. As a run back, I would use Tyreek Hill, and I know what you're saying that like, well, he might be the highest owned wide receiver, and so he can get different doing. So I'd rather maybe get the ceiling points from Tyreek Hill. You could run it back with HN. I think HN might be a really good. I think HN maybe makes more sense as a run back in a Jacksonville stack than any other situation. So I like Jacksonville. I'd maybe move both of these teams up a slot, or at least just have the Dolphins in B. But I see what you're saying about the price and up.
Okay, I'll bump them up. I'll put Jacksonville in A and Miami in B. Let's go to the next game. The game with the team, the highest team total, the Buffalo Bills, facing the Arizona Cardinals. Buffalo 27.5 implied team total. Arizona 20.5 implied team total. Obviously, this Buffalo team, who knows how their receiving core is going to work out? I mean, Diggs is gone, Davis is gone. I mean, they drafted Coleman. They got Curtis Samuel on the team now. All these receivers are cheap, right? Dalton Kincaid's at 5,800. So, and he projects pretty well for a tight end. James Cook is there sitting around there at 6,900. Then we also got, even on the other side, with Marvin Harrison Jr., new to Arizona. Outside of him, most of the other pieces are cheap, like Dortch and Michael Wilson. And Trey McBride's obviously there at 6,100. Josh Allen's 8,000. So, like, typically in the past, like when we would play the Buffalo, it's like, well, Diggs is like 7,600, and to stack Josh Allen is just way too expensive. But now they're pretty cheap. Like, the problem is that figuring out who to stack Josh Allen with, even figuring out who to stack, like Tyler Murray stack, if you play McBride and Harrison, is actually more expensive. But obviously, Kyler Murray has some upside with his legs. I mean, Josh Allen does also. I'm not a big fan of playing stacks with teams that only have like barely a 20-point team total and are 7-point underdogs. But Josh Allen, I am interested in, because I just don't think a lot of the field is going to go there and pay up all the way at quarterback. I just don't want to get in a situation where, in order to get the right Josh Allen double stack, I need to make like 74 lineups, because there's just like, what is between Shakir and Samuel and Coleman and Kincaid? I mean, they're all cheap enough for me to do, but I don't know where the ball's going. And sometimes we have these games where Josh Allen has 40 points and the rest of it's spread out so much that it doesn't matter, because he has 2 rushing touchdowns and no one has more than 60 receiving yards. So how are you handling the Bills and the Cardinals?
Yeah, it's one of the most interesting situations on the slate because the Bills have the highest implied team total. And a lot of times that's where ownership gravitates because it's a good indicator of like putting up points on the actual NFL scoreboard. Josh Allen's really expensive. It's like the receiver situation is really in flux relative to last season. I don't think that the Bills are going to be popular at all for a team that has the highest implied team total. Uh, I'd put the Bills at like C because you just can't get away from that pricing. But I am like tempted to be over the field. Like we're showing Josh Allen with really low projected ownership. I think less than 5%. I might be over the field on that. I'm probably not going to go crazy like stacking him with a bunch of double stacking him with receivers because I think the Josh Allen ceiling is maybe due to a rushing touchdown or 2 or some rushing yards. So like I would be comfortable just taking one stacking partner, maybe Kincaid, maybe Shakir, and stacking Josh Allen with that, not necessarily doing a run back. Like the spread is big enough that I'm not concerned about having an Arizona run back. Maybe Trey McBride. I don't know. I'm probably down on Marvin Harrison relative to the field. I don't like playing rookies. Like everybody gets so excited every year about all these rookie wide receivers. Xavier Worthy had a nice game last night. A lot of these rookie receivers just flop. I mean, Rashad Bateman was former first round draft pick. Jahan Dotson, Quentin Johnston. People aren't excited to play these guys a year or 2 later. I would, and it's not that I'm saying like I think Marvin Harrison's going to have a terrible career. I just think that like a lot of times the coaches do not want to put a lot on these guys' plates in week 1. So Bills in C, Cardinals in D, because I think the Cardinals will see more ownership than they should. And yeah, I think I'll leave it there, but I do have some interest in maybe being over the field on like Josh Allen skinny stacks. Just Josh Allen and a receiver.
I actually have a somewhat different opinion as far as stacking partners for Josh Allen. If you're going under the assumption that Josh Allen maybe vultures a touchdown, like Josh Allen is the highest scoring quarterback on the slate, but maybe he doesn't carry multiple pieces with him. I think I prefer Samuel or Coleman rather than Kincaid or Shakir, because like Shakir is a slot receiver. Kincaid is a tight end. Like I'm much more willing to like we've seen Curtis Samuel games for the Commanders where he scores 24 fantasy points because he's doing jet sweeps and catching 4-yard passes and taking them to the house. Like he's that type of player. And then you have Keon Coleman, who's much more likely to catch a 78-yard pass than anyone else. That I almost prefer. I like them as like one-off type pieces. Shakir and Kincaid their distributions are much more normal, right? They're going to rack up some more receptions, I guess. I prefer them in like maybe cash environments or smaller field environments. But if not many people are going to go to Buffalo, I think if people do go to Buffalo, it's going to be more Kincaid, more Shakir. I don't mind Kincaid, though, because the tight end position is fairly weak. So getting 18 points from a tight end could be humongous on this type of slate. So I think I'm much more likely to play Allen plus one of Coleman or Samuel plus Kincaid, or not any Kincaid, and then just hope Josh Allen puts up, 35, 40 points by himself. I just find like Shakir is a very like cash lineup-y type of play that for Josh Allen to pay off an 8K price tag, like I want him to throw 300 yards. And if he's rushing 2 touchdowns in, probably no one like up Shakir's type really probably gets there. So I don't know. I don't know if you're seeing that. Both those receivers project lower than Shakir and Kincaid, but I think they should. It's just that their distribution is going to be a lot more bottom and top heavy than kind of in the middle.
Yeah, I think that's possible. I don't really know. I think of Shakir as being a guy that can break off a long touchdown. But yeah, I think of Samuel maybe as more of like a receptions guy, just from his time watching him in Washington. But maybe that's like not the best circumstances to watch him. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's a valid point. I don't know if I see the players that way, but it's possible. And they're all about the same price. I think Keon Coleman's going to see very little ownership, but he kind of gets into my rookie wide receiver thing. But I'd probably rather play a rookie wide receiver at potentially like less than 1% ownership that is on the highest projected point total team on the slate than Marvin Harrison. So yeah, I think those are valid points. Yeah.
Okay, next highest team total, the Bengals against the Patriots. Bengals 26-point implied team total. New England 17, the lowest on the slate for an implied team total. I don't like this game at all. I don't want to have to figure out what the Bengals the backfield is going to be yet. New England obviously has the lowest implied team total. From a stack perspective, I don't want to. Can I take a shot on a 3,900 Jalen Polk? Sure, but I'm not gonna be stacking. I'm not playing Jacoby Brissett this week. I'm just not. The Bengals passing attack is a lot more viable. We don't know what's going on with Jamar Chase. He's probably going to play. Is he going to play his full complement of snaps? I don't know. Do you take a shot on him at 7,800? Yeah, I guess you could. You got T. Higgins at 6,100. Can I take a shot on Andre Iosivas maybe at 3K? I just think this game is not going to be a good. I don't think this game environment. I think this is maybe one of the worst game environments on the slate. I'm not. I mean, if you want to play the Patriots, as I try to find their logo, good luck to you. I'm putting them on the F tier, and the Bengals I'm putting on the D tier. Do you have any? Do you see this game any differently than me, or am I way too low on this game?
No, and so with the standard caveat that I think anything's viable in like a super large field million maker type setting, because we probably know less about these teams than we do at any point in the year. I was actually looking at the board before we put any team on there, thinking like I don't know if I'll have any teams in the F tier. I'm like, oh, the Patriots, the Patriots will be like the one team I could see immediately. Just lowest implied team total on the board. I think they're like putting Jacoby Brissett in there kind of for a reason. They don't want like Drake May to kind of get exposed. And not that I think he's a bad player, but like the offensive line might not be very good. The offense might not be very good. Maybe we'll let him like sit for at least for a few games. And Jacoby Brissett is a guy that tends. I just think of him as like solid backup quarterback that is like not explosive. Like he's not going to be like a guy. It's like Nick Mullins or like somebody that's going in like just like air it out. Gardner Minshew, just air it out and caution to the wind. Like he's going to try to protect the ball. I think not make mistakes. And yeah, I think that's going to put Cincinnati in a position where then they can just run the ball a little bit. Like maybe they take an early lead and they're running the ball. And then the carries are split between Moss and Chase Brown. Player props seem to indicate it will be like a split at rushing. That's what I think we believe. So then it's like a situation where almost nobody's getting value. I'll say there's a script where like Ramondre Stevenson gets an early touchdown, then the Bengals have to throw the ball a little bit more. So if you want to like play for that scenario in super large field, like the large field contests, I don't think that's crazy, but it's more along the lines of anything can happen kind of situation.
Okay, next game on the slate is a game at the complete opposite end of the spectrum. I love the game environment, and that's the Texans versus the Colts. Texans are favored 24.75 implied team total. The Colts 23.25 implied team total. We got Richardson versus Stroud. We got a kind of a rushing quarterback that's coming off of injury. We got CJ Stroud in what should be a high-powered passing game from the Texans. Now that they add Stephon Diggs on top of that, got a lot of people to choose from. I feel like I could play Pittman. I could play Jonathan Taylor, Mixon, Dell, Collins, even like with no Josh Downs. Adonai Mitchell is there. Who knows what he's going to be like at 3,800. Cheap tight ends you could throw in like Kylan Granson. This game is also going to be fairly popular. I think Richardson is going to be. I think both quarterbacks. I think Richardson will be more owned than Stroud. I think although the Texans passing game is better than the Colts passing game, I don't know how to get the Texans passing game right, and it's not like it's cheap. But I feel like if I just play like Anthony Richardson plus Michael Pittman Jr. plus one of Mitchell or Granson, that if Richardson actually throws the ball well, this is where the ball's going. I mean, like kind of like Jonathan Taylor 7,800 is a little too expensive. So I think the Colts are a B tier stack. And I think the Texans, while not like bad, I think just for their price, I'm going to throw them in the C tier. But if you want to make multiple lineups and do CJ Stroud double stacks, I think the CJ Stroud double stack is going to win a milli at least once this season. I'm just not sure if it's week 1.
Yeah. So this is my favorite game on the slate. I've moved both these teams up. I don't know if you like had lineup HQ up, you could see like my multiple tags. Half my tags are guys from this game. I think the first player whose price I checked out, like I saw somebody tweet out, "Oh, pricing's up for week 1." It's like, I wonder how much Anthony Richardson is. I just love rushing quarterbacks. I love quarterbacks that are playing at home. I love quarterbacks that play in a dome. I like cheaper quarterbacks. Anthony Richardson's checking all the boxes for me this week. He could be a total dud. He could get hurt, get hurt the shoulder or something. I think he played 4 games last season. I think only 1 total game. I think he like went out at like halftime of 2 of the games and in the like fourth quarter of one of the games. So I think, yeah, I don't know. I'm disappointed almost that he's so cheap because I think his ownership is going to be very high. We're not showing his ownership and ownership of like the Colts players as high as I expected it would be. I thought this would be like massive chalk. I'm going to play a lot of Anthony Richardson. And if he ends up being chalk, that's fine. He's at home, he's indoors, he can run the ball. If he can add some passing as well, then I think he has a good chance to be the highest scoring quarterback on the slate. Like way more so than his price would indicate. I think the Texans side, I like the Texans side as well. They're a little bit pricier and they're the road team, but they are the favorite team. So yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have a lot of pieces of this game. I think this will be my highest owned game. Like everything about it, I agree that it's hard to distinguish between like which Texans receiver is gonna have a big game. With CJ Stroud, I would just take 2 of the above of Dalton Schultz, Tank Dell. I think Tank Dell is probably the best priced. That'll probably lead to the highest ownership. And like Nico Collins is an explosive player. Like Nico Collins is one of those guys just doesn't show up in optimal lineups that much because his median outcome isn't that high, but his his ceiling outcome is very high, especially indoors. So I don't know that you can go wrong with this game. I might end up like under the field on Stephon Diggs if he gets a lot of like name value ownership. But I'll be playing some Diggs as well. I love the idea of like double, triple stacking CJ Stroud, having a Colts run back, whether it's Jonathan Taylor or Michael Pittman or Mitchell, or if you want to go super cheap tight end with Granson. I like the idea of playing Anthony Richardson, maybe having one or two wide receivers from his own team or tight ends, and then pairing it with a Texans piece or two. And don't forget Joe Mixon. I've got Joe Mixon tagged because that could be something that takes some of the air out of the Texans offense, just in a way like where Joe Mixon's getting the touchdowns, and then so having like an Anthony Richardson with a Joe Mixon run back, I think is something that's plausible as well.
Next game on the slate. This is going to be a popular stack. It's the Bears and the Texans and the Titans. Bears 24 implied team total. The Titans 19.5 implied team total. I know it must be saying something about the Titans defense that a rookie quarterback is favored by this much with a 24 implied team total. I mean, I know people get excited for rookies, but I mean, we'll get to another one also towards the end of the show. Do I really want to play chalk Caleb Williams? Like like Williams plus Moore plus Komet or Odunze or Keenan Allen may be a little overpriced now, and we don't know necessarily what his role, and he may just end up being just a slot receiver that may not be worth $6,900 anymore. And then on the Tennessee side, I'm not playing Will Levis. You got Calvin Ridley, you got DeAndre Hopkins. The Titans are improved. I'm not sure if the Titans offense is even, you look, Calvin Ridley, 5,800, DeAndre Hopkins, 5,700. This was like 4 years ago. We'd be like, wow, these guys are way underpriced. I don't think so. I think they may actually possibly be overpriced. I don't mind a Bears stack. It's just that I don't want to pay the ownership. I think Odunze is going to be way overowned at 4K for being a third wide receiver for a team. I think most people will stack Caleb Williams with DJ Moore. I don't mind a Bears stack, but at that ownership, I can't put them higher than the C tier. And from the Titan side, I'm willing to throw them in the F tier, but maybe you're more in the D variety. I just think this game is going to be overowned, and I don't necessarily think this is the greatest game environment, and I don't want to have a high-owned rookie quarterback.
I think this is about right. I'd maybe put the Titans in C. I think there's some uncertainty here, and so and there's maybe an argument you would want to lean into the uncertainty. So we don't really know what Caleb Williams will be. We don't really know what the Titans' offense is going to look like. Having said that, I think your instincts are right that I think this is going to end up being over. I think people are going to get excited about the rookie combination, Caleb Williams, that done that, and
right. You say to lean. I agree with you, John, about leaning into the uncertainty. But if everyone's leaning into the uncertainty, I'm going to lean away and go towards the cert.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I agree. I'd maybe. Yeah. This is probably right. This is probably the right tiers. I would say there's maybe an argument for some Caleb Williams, DJ Moore. I think we're showing Caleb Williams as one of the highest owned quarterbacks. He's 5,900, and people are getting really excited. Look at Bryce Young last year. There was reason for excitement last year with Bryce Young. And again, I'm not saying that Caleb Williams is going to be a flop, or we don't even know if Bryce Young's really a flop. But I think right. I think we've got him as the second highest owned quarterback. I'm not that interested because the team total is just not that high. The rushing ability is maybe a little bit limited. I don't know. I think DJ Moore can always break a slate, but maybe that's an argument for DJ Moore one-off more so than a bunch of Caleb Williams, DJ Moore stacks. Definitely want to be under the field on like Caleb Williams paired with Keenan Allen and Odunze. I don't know. Yeah, just not a lot to get excited about in the game. Well, it's an interesting game. I'm not going to go there probably as much as the field for week 1.
Okay, next game on the docket. Seattle and Denver. Denver's traveling to Seattle. Seattle has a 23.5 implied team total. Denver, 19 implied team total. Denver starting a rookie quarterback. Seattle, pretty much the same team as last year. I think Kenny Walker is going to be quite popular at the running back position. But according to our Sims, I mean, I thought this before the Sims came out, that you told me 2 or 3 years ago that the Seattle wide receivers were going to be 6K or less, and the Seahawks have a healthy almost 24 implied team total against the Broncos, who are hashtag not good. For the price, I know that everyone's expecting the Seahawks to be even more run heavy than they were. I think Geno Smith is actually a very good quarterback. And they got the weapons at wide receiver to break games wide open. I'm gonna side with our Sims tool, and I'm going to put because this stack is not really going to be owned. I mean, this is our highest leverage stack of the Sims tool. I'm putting the Seahawks in the A tier, and the Broncos, on the other hand, I have almost no interest in whatsoever. If I play a Seahawks stack, I may not even play a run back in it. Maybe Javonte will, but if Javonte Williams does well, then probably the game is running way too slow. I'm putting the Broncos in the F tier, but I mean, you're more than welcome to bump them up to D. But I'm assuming that. Are you as high as I am on the Seahawks to be A tier, or do you think they're that? I just think they're going to be low owned enough that I think they're comparable. Like, I'd rather play the Seahawks over the Bears, like, just simply even without ownership. That, like, the fact that I'm getting that big of a discount on ownership. I mean, I'm telling you what I'm doing on Sunday. I'm going to be playing a lot of Seattle.
So I'd kind of switch this a little bit. Like, I'd probably put the Broncos in D and the Seahawks in B, and it might just be more of our interpretation of the board and how ownership should play a role, in the board. I think that and a lot of this also comes down to running backs. I don't love Kenneth Walker at super high ownership because he doesn't catch a bunch of passes. So it reminds me of Derrick Henry from last night. We saw Derrick Henry score the first touchdown, everybody's going crazy, and if he doesn't catch passes, every time one of the other running backs catches a pass, it's 10 yards, 10 rushing yards. So I can see that either way. Seahawks passing offense, I think, should be an A. I agree. It's one of those things where they're paying a boring penalty, right? They're paying a penalty for not having any flashy new names or making major changes in the offseason. Same 3 wide receivers, same quarterback, and same tight end. That probably helps them actually, but it makes them seem boring to us. I always love Geno Smith. There's something really to be said for a guy that goes down to being a backup quarterback and earns his way back to being a starter, because backup quarterbacks have to be better than all the other quarterbacks they bring in every year, right? Because they don't have this massive contract. Starters sometimes just stick around based off of contract and draft pedigree. Geno Smith has had to earn his way every season. And so, I think he's a good quarterback. If they've got good wide receivers, I agree. They're going to be under-owned. That's probably what our sim tool is seeing too. We look at some of these teams that have 24, 25 points implied team total. And Chicago's got 24.25. People want to play them. Even the Houston in the Indy game that I like. So 26 points and 23 points. Seattle's got 23.75, and everybody's like, "Oh, that's really low." It's not that much lower than the other teams people are racing to play. Just we have a lot of kind of certainty about the roles, and that's a good thing. So I mean, I could talk myself into an A on Seattle, but maybe I would put the Kenneth Walker thing, and that I don't want to have maybe as much of him as the field, and put them down to a B. Denver actually like Javonte Williams. He's 1 more year removed from the injury. I've got him tagged online at HQ. He's one of the cheapest running backs out there. And, if he shows some of the explosion that he had, now he's a year recovered from the injury. Bo Nix checked down a lot at Oregon. It's like one of the few things I know about him. So if he's catching, like, it's one of those things where he's getting 7-8 receptions as the game, because they will probably be down as well. Then I could see Javonte Williams putting up a big kind of sneaky score at his price, although now he's starting to see some ownership as well. My initial gut is to have Seahawks in B and Broncos in D, but I could live with
we can't condense it. I mean, the people, if we have everything in the middle, people will look at the tiers list and go, "Come on, but have some balls to make a stand." So I'm more inclined to kind of push them out and go, "Okay, here's A, here's some more Fs, here's some more A's." Right?
I'm a big bell
that's
curve.
what I'm trying to do.
Tiers guy. I always like to see like a sideways bell curve on the tiers, but all right.
I try to make it as even as possible, that there's equal amount of teams on everything. Okay, let's get to the next game. Chargers, Raiders. Chargers with a 23.25 implied team total. The Raiders with a 20.25 implied team total. I think this game environment sucks, but the Chargers are cheap and they have a 23 implied team total. I don't have much interest in the Raiders at all with Gardner Minshew. Can you take a shot on Devontae Adams? I guess so. I don't feel like this is the slate to spend $7,600 on a receiver for a sub 20 implied team total team. And if I'm not doing that, I'm throwing the Raiders in the F tier. And the Chargers, on the other hand, I'm much more into playing Zamir White than I am to playing a Herbert stack. But the Herbert stack is just so cheap. I mean, like, where's the ball going? Who knows? But you got McConkey at 4,700, Palmer at 5,200. You still got, you got some cheap tight ends. Obviously, some running backs around there that you could kind of pair. You still got Quentin Johnston. Maybe he could still happen. DJ Chark is there. Maybe he's a thing, right? You don't know. It's just that they're cheap enough that at a 23.25 implied team total, maybe I could play some Herbert stacks. So I'm putting the Chargers in the C tier. I don't like this game environment in general. So even the Herbert stack even if it does well enough, it may not do well enough to win the Millie. But I'm definitely into Zamir White and the blitz. If you have the blitz projections, you probably have already gotten Zamir White's rushing overs already before they moved even higher up. I don't think Alexander Madison's going to be that big a part of this offense at all.
I would put the Chargers at C. I'd probably move the Raiders up to D. But just based off the Devontae Adams factor.
Well, you can play just like I said in the beginning of the show. F tier, play Adams by himself, and that's fine. Okay, but good luck stacking the Raiders. I ain't doing it.
Yeah, no, I'm like, if this is based off of just primarily like how do we feel about the stacks, I guess, relative to, I'm thinking of like how do I feel about the players on the team,
right? But I'm just saying in general, John, just because I'm trying to branch out to not be like wishy-washy. Would you rather play the Cardinals, the Bengals, or the Titans, or the where would you put the Raiders? Would the Raiders be fourth in that list?
Yeah.
Okay, so they'll be the top of the F tier for you. Just for you, you could pretend that the Raiders are an F plus if they go underneath those teams.
I'm picturing a sideways bell curve in my head. But yeah, I think the Chargers are kind of a sneaky C. I did the Sirius XM show, with Eric Beinpour over the summer, and I was joking I couldn't name a Chargers player at this point other than Justin Herbert. That's almost still true. But I think that's kind of true of everybody. So, and like Justin Herbert's a good enough quarterback. Like, would you be shocked if Justin Herbert threw for like 360 yards, 2 or 3 touchdowns, and put some points on the board, for the Chargers? Like, no, I wouldn't be shocked about that. They do have a 21 plus, implied team total. So, obviously it's not like a stack I want to be going, berserk with. Probably wouldn't play them in like single entry kind of format, smaller field. larger field though, like I don't know, may probably be over what I expect to be very small ownership. Um, yeah, DJ Shark's probably a wide receiver that that we should be aware of at least on the slate. I think they've got Vlad McConkey. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know a lot about this team, but neither does anybody else. Justin Herbert, I kind of like the idea of just like setting some things to have some lineups in 150 set. It's Justin Herbert and random 2 receiver stacks, and maybe you pair that with Devontae Adams. Probably not as high on Zamir White just because he doesn't catch the passes, but like maybe from a betting perspective, like the betting of the over on the rushing yards, I agree. I think he'll get a lot of the like the rushing work for the Raiders. So like that might be a reasonable bet, or like if the blitz implies it, then I would put some faith in that. But not as high on him in like point per reception DFS.
Okay, next game. Saints Panthers. Saints 22.75 implied team total. Panthers 17.75 implied team total, the second lowest on the board. I think this game environment sucks also. If I were to choose, I'd rather play the Saints side as a stack, Carr plus Olave plus Jawan Johnson, something like that. You could mix in a Shaheed, right? This is a team that hasn't really changed much at all. The Panthers, on the other hand, they've gotten Deontay Johnson in, and that's pretty much it. I think Chuba Hubbard is going to get a lot more of the workload over Miles Sanders. I prefer the running backs in this game, Kamara and Hubbard, more than the passing game. Can I play Olave as a one-off? Sure. Can he play Shaheed as a one-off anytime at 4,400? Yeah, he could score 15 points on one play. I think this game ranks very low to me on the list. I'm gonna take my stand. I'm gonna put the Saints in the D tier, and I'll put the Panthers smack dab in the F. I'm not playing Bryce Young stack. Yeah, Bryce Young plus Adam Thielen plus Deontay Johnson. That screams if the Panthers actually do throw the ball, that both these receivers have 8 catches for 43 yards. Right? They just they both have like 4-yard catches. Yeah, good luck on this.
I would put both these teams higher. Probably put them both in the C tier. But like again, maybe I'm thinking of it more in terms of the players and the stacks. I think there's an argument for. So first of all, the game is indoors, which is always something that can lead to more offense than we expect. It wouldn't surprise me if this game went over the total. I think Chuba Hubbard and Alvin Kamara are both going to be very popular on this league. I think we're going to be surprised at their ownership. They're both well priced for being like the only running backs on their team. They can catch passes, and it's an indoor environment. And so I would put these teams in the C tier, kind of just based off of Alvin Kamara and
even Hubbard. The Panthers. The Panthers have a 17 implied team total. I ain't moving them out of the F tier. I don't care what you say.
I'm seeing 19. So just like 4 or 5 points lower than Seattle. I don't know. I think no.
Well, what's your Panther? Sell me on a Panther stack. What's the Bryce Young stack that you play?
He's former number one. I mean, he was just the number one overall pick last year, right? Like the year was a disaster, but they're changing the coaching staff, so there's got to be some natural talent there. I don't know. I'm not an NFL talent evaluator.
Are you playing Xavier Leggett? I'm talking about the wide receivers. It's just that I don't see wide receivers that. I mean, Adam Thielen at 52. You just single stack it. I mean, what do you do with the Panthers?
Yeah, I think Deontay Johnson at 5,300. I think that's where I would go. I think it's like we're showing what Bryce Young. We've got him estimated at 2% ownership. I would be double the field on that in a 150 set. Again, this is not like a single entry small field thing. I think Bryce Young's chances of being the quarterback you need to have to win the Millie Maker are better than 1 in 50. So yeah, I think Chuba Hubbard's going to see some ownership, and I like him at 5,300. I like Deontay Johnson at 5,300. I think Bryce Young is one of the cheapest quarterbacks on the board in an indoor environment. It's at least worth a shot in week 1 to try to be ahead of the field if the team is better. There's a good chance they're not. There's a good chance this is just what we expect. But I think you can make an argument for being over the field on the Panthers.
Next game, Falcons, Steelers. Falcons, 22.75 implied team total. Steelers, 20.25 implied team total. This is the Arthur Smith is gone, ding dong, the witch is dead game. I think you said lean into the uncertainty. There's plenty of uncertainty with the Falcons, but everyone just expects that these skill position players like London, Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts are just like the handcuffs are off. Arthur Smith is going. Well, actually, Arthur Smith is still there. He's just on the opposite sideline. So I don't know about playing any of the Steelers. I like the Falcon. It's odd to me that people want to play London, people want to play Bijan, people want to play Pitts, and then Kirk Cousins. Like it's very similar, like the Vikings, right? When he was on the Vikings, we want to play Justin Jefferson and T.J. Hawkinson and Jordan Addison, and Kirk Cousins comes in at 2% owned. It's like how are people playing all these people and then not stacking them up? I like the Falcons this week. I'm just more concerned that their ownership, people are going to lean into the uncertainty. So I'm going to put the Falcons in the B tier because it's a competitive stack. I mean, like from a price perspective, London plus Pitts isn't that expensive, right? And truthfully, Bijan catches enough passes out of the backfield that you could even play Cousins with Robinson, although I'm less likely to do that. So I don't mind the Falcons. The Falcons would be higher for me if other people didn't also have the same idea. And the Steelers side, I'm not playing Russell Wilson. I'm much more inclined to play Justin Fields if he was playing, but I guess can you play Wilson plus Pickens? I guess. I think the Falcons defense is actually hashtag not bad. I'm putting the Steelers in the D tier.
Interesting. This is the first one where I think I might be lower on both the teams a little bit. It is like the Arthur Smith game. It's just got a low total. Like the way I see this game kind of playing out, hopefully, in terms of what I'll probably have my exposure be, I think the Falcons might just run Bijan Robinson, take a lead. The Steelers can't catch up. It is an indoor environment, so like maybe I should be a notch higher on both teams. I agree. I don't think it's necessarily going to be like, oh, the handcuffs are off. The Falcon players are going to go berserk. I think it might just be Bijan Robinson. I guess I'm high on Drake London in terms of like season long. I just don't know if this will be the game. Only like 22.75 implied team total for the Falcons. I'm hoping a lot of that is Bijan Robinson. Steelers, we've seen like the Arthur Smith experience for years.
Should I put him in the F tier? Are you fine with the F tier?
Yeah, I'd be okay putting. Yeah, I'd be more likely to put the Steelers in F tier. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to leave the Falcons in the B. I'm just going to leave them in the B tier, but I don't mind. I would still rather play the Dolphins and the Texans. So I mean, the B tier, like they're high C, low B, to me.
Yeah.
I mean, if they were much lower owned, I'd be much more higher on them. But yes, the game environment for this game is probably not very good.
Yeah, I agree with your Kirk Cousins take. I used to write that in my quarterbacks article last year. That like people would be like tripping over themselves to like T.J. Hawkinson or Justin Jefferson, and then like Jordan Addison. Like, we got to play all these Minnesota wide receivers. Like Kirk Cousins, though, well, like 0.5% ownership. Like, why? Well, who needs to throw them the ball? So yeah, I agree. I think there's an argument for maybe being, you've got Kirk Cousins in an indoor environment that should maybe be over the field. But I'm probably going to have more Bijan than anything else from this game, and then maybe more Falcons defense.
Okay, let's go to the next game. We got Buccaneers against the Commanders. Tampa Bay, 22.5 implied team total. Commanders, 19 implied team total. Jaden Daniels is, he's another one. Like, oh, shiny new toy. He can run the ball. 5,700. Gotta play him. I think he's going to be one of the highest owned quarterbacks on the slate. If you're going to pair him up, you're probably pairing him up with like Terry McLaurin, I guess. I think the Commanders are going to be massively overowned. I prefer the complete other side of the game. I mean, like Rachaad White to me is more of like a cash game play. He may be in my cash lineup, but Baker Mayfield doubles. You give me 2 of Godwin, Evans, McMillan, Kate Otten, something like that. I mean, if Jaden Daniels is just his first game goes disastrously, I mean, the Buccaneers could put up a ton of points. I just don't know. I don't know why. I mean, if I'm going to play a high owned rookie quarterback, I'll play Caleb Williams with a when they're favored at home with a healthy implied team total, but not Jaden Daniels. I see the potential because he could rush for 50 plus yards also. I just think maybe he throws 2 or 3 interceptions with that as well. I don't trust the Commanders offensively. I'm not going to put him in the F tier. I'm gonna put him in the D tier. But Baker Mayfield, he's one of those. He's like Mitch Trubisky, kind of one of those people that like once or twice a year shows up in the winning Millie lineup, and I just don't think many people are going to be on the Buccaneers this week.
I would, I'd maybe move the Commanders up and get my bell curve, but you're going to deny me. I would, I agree. So actually, I like the Buccaneers side of this game. Jaden Daniels is a guy I'll have some. I think it's like Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin stacks will be a little bit like too easy to get to this week, and I'll have some. If like Jaden Daniels does end up being like the highest owned quarterback, I'm not going to have that much. He's a little bit too cheap because he does have rushing potential. I'd probably rather play Daniels than Caleb Williams, but I guess see what you're saying. Like Williams is at home and is the favorite quarterback. Jaden Daniels is on the road, and they've got like a 19 points implied team total. Like Jaden Daniels has the rushing ability. So let's say he goes out and gets 60 rushing yards and a touchdown. At 5,700, and Jaden Daniels is cheaper than Williams as well. Like I'd probably rather have Jaden Daniels than Caleb Williams. Having said that, I'd probably rather have Buccaneers than both of them because Rachaad White, I think, is going to be one of the highest owned running backs on the slate, but I've got him tagged. This Commanders defense was terrible last year, and they focused on the offense rather than the defense. So I think this might be a year where the Commanders defense is terrible and they let Jaden Daniels go out there and put up big numbers as a rookie, trying to claw back in these games. I don't think the team will be that good. Buccaneers are at home. They're another team that's like kind of boring because they didn't make any changes, so nobody wants to play them. But that's like to their benefit. It's a very similar situation to Seattle. I would, I like the idea of being over the field on Baker Mayfield. I've got Mike Evans tagged. I think Chris Godwin is underpriced, and I'll be playing a lot of Rachaad White.
Next game, we got two more left. Okay, we got Cleveland and Dallas. Browns with a 22.5 implied team total. Dallas with a 21.5 implied team total. I don't like this game at all. Am I going to pay $7,100 for Dak Prescott plus $8,900 for CeeDee Lamb in a game where Dallas is barely over a 20-point implied team total? No. Do I think that, and obviously the Browns defense is top class. Do I really think like Deshaun Watson is someone that similar to like Jameis Winston, kind of like Watson could break a slate? I just don't think the Browns are going to let him. I think this is much more likely to be Jerome Ford on the ground than, airing it out. I think this game will be slow. I think the Browns is going to basically want to keep the ball out of Prescott and Lamb's hands. And me personally, at that price, I can't play the Cowboys. Can you play CeeDee Lamb as a one-off? I guess so, yeah. But at that price, they're an F-tier team to me. I ain't touching this price for the Cowboys in this matchup. I'd much rather play the Browns with Deshaun Watson, Amari Cooper type of stack or something. Jerry Jeudy's there now. I'm not big into the Browns passing game anyway, but if I had to choose between the two teams, I'd rather play the Browns offense than the Cowboys offense at expensive prices. But I don't see myself getting to like anyone in this game, even as one-offs. other than like the Browns defense or something. I don't know. Do you see it any differently?
No, I think I see it similarly. I do like the idea of maybe being over the field on the Browns. I'd move them up to C. I'd move both teams up maybe. But yeah, I don't know. Like I'm surprised at the line on this game. Uh, like if you just like threw this game at a bunch of fantasy sports players, they'd be like, oh yeah, like the Cowboys have got to be favored against the Browns. I'm really excited about playing CD Lamb. I don't know. I don't know if CeeDee Lamb is like a the low IQ play or the Galaxy Brain high IQ play because he's going to see so much lower ownership than Tyreek Hill, and you wouldn't be shocked if CeeDee Lamb put up the highest wide receiver score on the slate. Having said that, he's also more expensive than Tyreek Hill, so he kind of is supposed to put up a higher score. And I think Tyreek Hill is in a much better situation. I don't know. I think there's a good chance the Cowboys will be overowned, but maybe I'm underestimating the field. And they obviously do have the players can go berserk. So, but yeah, I like. It's not insane that a Deshaun Watson and Amari Cooper stack wins the Millie Maker. Amari Cooper just goes nuts every once in a while. It's a revenge game, right? Delayed, but yeah, I don't know. I would really move the Browns up to C. They're the home team. They're favored. They're going to see very little ownership, and they have players that can be explosive and go crazy. So,
But I'm leaving them in the D tier. I don't care. They're low C, high D. Okay, we got one game left. Giants and the Vikings. Giants with a 20 with now it's kind of flipped. They both have around a 20 implied team total. And Lineup HQ says it differently than on the Blitz page. I don't know about you. Our Sims tool has this much higher. The Giants, Daniel Jones stack, third highest likely to be optimal. Obviously, this could be due to the fact that Daniel Jones runs the ball, 5,400. And his stacking partners, Neighbors, Wan'Dale Robinson. He's got some cheap pieces. Obviously, Singletary's there as a running back. And then on the other side of the ball, you've got Sam Darnold-led offense. And I don't think Sam Darnold is awful. But you got Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. I'm assuming he says he's going to play. Aaron Jones. I don't know. I know this is a low total at like 41. But I feel that there are pieces here in this game that, like, Aaron Jones could just break one. Jefferson could break one. Neighbors could, people could break. There's enough people in this game. And I don't think this game is going to be very owned at all. I'm not sure if I'm going to get to the A tier, but I'm going to put Daniel Jones plus Neighbors plus Wan'Dale, even like a cheap tight end, a Bellinger or something like that. I put the Giants in the B tier, and I'm putting the Vikings in the C tier. I don't know. I look at the pieces in this game, and I go, why is the total so low? I don't know. And then I look at the Sims tool, and the Sims are like, yeah, Daniel Jones double stacks, and I'm like, really? And it's like, yeah, why not? Why can't you play Daniel Jones, Neighbors, Robinson, Jefferson? If you told me that, I'd look at the pieces and it'd be like, if there's two 65-yard touchdowns, it's like, yeah, I can see both of them. Can I see Justin Jefferson catching 12 balls? Yeah, I can see that also. Can I see Neighbors going 6 for 100 with 2 touchdowns? Yeah, I see Daniel Jones rushing for 100 yards. Can I see that? Aaron Jones catching 5 balls out of the backfield and rushing 2 touchdowns, 80. I mean, like I just see pieces that can do this. And I see ownership that is like not even there. So am I unreasonable to be much higher on a game with a 41 implied team total than I should be?
Yeah, maybe not. I'd have them probably both as C. There's been a lot of changes to both offenses, so we don't entirely know what to expect. But I do think, like if I'm taking a Minnesota Viking, it's probably gonna be Justin Jefferson. No, we'll see how things play out with Sam Darnold. Like Darnold's a guy that might be a little bit underrated. Maybe he might be competent. So the Giants, I don't know. I think Malik Neighbors is going to be really popular. And like I said, I don't love the idea of playing high-owned rookie wide receivers in their very first game in the NFL. Like it wouldn't shock me if we see a similar outcome to last night, where like Neighbors gets a touchdown. Like I don't know if it's going to be like the super high volume. Like they might be throwing to like Darius Slayton, Jalen Hyatt, Wan'Dale Robinson. We just don't know entirely what to expect from this Giants offense. So I'd probably have both teams in the C tier. It wouldn't shock me if either of the teams put up like a big game, or a player here or there from either team put up like a really big game and landed on a winning lineup. There's just other places I'd rather go with like higher totals. I don't know that it's going to see really low ownership either. Like as I think Justin Jefferson's going to be popular. I think Neighbors is going to be popular. I'd maybe be interested in like going over the field on stacks, right? Like maybe have Neighbors, but only paired with Daniel Jones and Justin Jefferson, and then like playing a bunch of Malik Neighbors one offs.
I agree with you. So we got our tiers here. I'm sorry for not. This is close. We're close to the. We're close. It's close enough for you, right? For the curve. We got the Jaguars, the Colts, and the Seahawks as our A tier teams. We got the do not play the Patriots, the Broncos, the Raiders, the Steelers, or the Cowboys. And the last question, I always talk about, chalk, good chalk, bad chalk. I'm not a big fan of those two terms. More of a scary or fade. Okay, and they both come from the Dolphins. Scary or fade, if you're playing one lineup, and you're like, who am I more scared to fade? Is that Tyreek Hill at 8,700 or Devon Achane at 6,800?
Tyreek Hill. Like, just I'm gonna have this in my article later today, but like if you look at like receiver props, like there's nobody close to Tyreek Hill. There's a bunch of guys that are expected to have more rushing yards than Achane. We don't even know on his own team how does it break down between him and Mostert. The receiving props for Achane aren't like explosively high. Which some people have been suggesting that maybe he's going to be getting a bunch of receptions. Maybe it's not reflecting that way. If you think that, go bet it in the prop market. There's nobody that's close to Tyreek Hill within like 16 yards on the slate for receiving prop. So scary or fade, I think it's Tyreek Hill.
Another similar price point, I'll ask also. Scary or fade. If you had a choice of only playing one, okay, this is an only playing one. Are you going to play Kenny Walker at 6,100 at running back or Malik Neighbors at 5,900 at wide receiver?
I don't love either player, but I'd probably rather go Walker.
How about if you throw in Rachaad White there out of the three?
I'll play like Rachaad White.
Okay, so you prefer White over Walker and Neighbors in that price range?
Yeah.
Okay, last question. Yeah.
Okay.
Last question. Best GPP play, ownership considered, for wide receiver 4K or less?
Let's see. I don't have a fast answer to that.
I was gonna assume you're gonna say Adonai Mitchell, 3,800 for the Colts because you're playing a lot of Richardson.
Yeah, I would say it probably is Mitchell. Like, we'll just make sure that everything's like not going well for Josh Downs. But if we get confirmation on that, then I think Mitchell is a guy I'd definitely be interested in. See if there's anybody else kind of down here. Maybe DJ Shark at 4,000 flat is somebody to at least consider, just because there's some uncertainty with the Chargers distribution, but Justin Herbert's probably still good. So,
okay, final words for week one. My final words: we don't know anything, right? Yeah. We say this every year. Week one, people watch the preseason. They're drafting best ball lineups. Everyone thinks they know. All these teams, different coaching staffs, the defense. Oh, they're good defense. No, they're a bad defense. Oh, they're a bad defense. They're a good defense. Like it's so much changes from year to year that, if the group think is like, oh yeah, well, this is definitely going to happen. Like, I'm much more likely to fade that type of stuff and the stuff where it's like, oh yeah, this team isn't going to, they're not going to throw the ball much. And then next thing you know, they're throwing the ball all the time. Or this quarterback, sucks and they're great. I mean, like, I'm much more likely to lean into, like we said, lean into uncertainty, especially when the other side is way certain when they really shouldn't be. And that's the main reason why week 2 is my favorite week, because people take 1 week sample sizes and then just assume you multiply that times 17, and that's what's going to happen for the rest of the season. So to me, recency bias happens the most in week 2. But week 1, you still get plenty of people that are like, I know exactly how these teams are going to play.
Yeah. My favorite thing to do before like setting week 1 lineups or like doing a draft, for season long or best ball, go ahead and take a look at your 2023 drafts. Like look at what was in the first round, and see how little you knew.
How little did you know?
I knew a lot in week 2. Man, did well in week 2. Bryce Young, I'm telling you, there's no reason to think he can't be good. That was the quarterback for that team. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We think we know some things, but we'll see how it plays out.
Okay, so what's your schedule like for now through Sunday, content wise, show wise? Where can people check you out?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure, but so we got solo.
You're doing the 11. You're doing the middle show on the Sunday block with Eric still, right?
Oh yeah. I forgot about that. So solo ship coming out. Will be recorded this afternoon with Jam to Win from 1 week season. That will probably usually comes out like Friday night. Then I'll have a main slate article come out this afternoon as well. I think we've already got my Friday night because we got Friday Night Football. Friday night article is out already. And then I will be doing UFC content tonight, tomorrow morning. That'll come out, before the UFC card tomorrow afternoon. And then NFL, yeah, week 1. On the 11 a.m. show, Eric Bimefor, Neil Lowerfield. Excited about it. So it'll be, tune in. It'll be good to get all the pregame tournament takes.
And remember, our Freebie Friday is College Football Expert Survey. If you go there on RotoGrinders.com, that should be free to all members. If you want to get all of our content, get a combo premium package. It covers all the sports, especially with college football running. Next month, we're going to get NHL, NBA back. We're going to get college basketball back. Get all of our projections. Get all of our tools. Get sim labs. Get everything. Click on that link in the description. Get $40 off your first month. I will be back on Monday with James to review all the things that we got wrong, right? Because we're going to get most of the stuff wrong. Everyone is for this slate. And be back with you as I always am, Monday through Friday, 11 o'clock Eastern, talking about all things you're thinking about in daily fantasy, props, and pick'em on RotoGrinders Today.